Well, you bring up management for Spain, and we had a video go out on our YouTube channel on the 90th minute, kind of giving our thoughts on Vilda and the situation that's come out to be with him, and just maybe rumors that we've heard within the media and what's being reported. And a lot of people didn't agree with what we were saying, which is fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Here we are now in a situation where Spain win the World Cup, where we know that there was this drama with Vilda and 15 players on Spain's senior national team writing letters to the federation saying that it's been a controlling and toxic environment and they just want change. I have the exact quote of what the federation said back to them, saying that they need to accept their mistake and ask for forgiveness. Now, that's a very sad response from a federation when you feel like you're standing up for what's right and what you believe in as a player, as a woman, as a human being, right? So now we have this situation where Vilda now has won the World Cup with Spain. And here's my stance on it to make it very clear. I think Vilda deserves some credit. He's the manager, he picked the squad, he made key contributions to this game today. I think Paraluelo starting, best young player of the tournament. She's been incredible. I thought that was very important for Spain today because she just adds this burst of energy. She's just like a rocket out there. She's incredible. I can't wait to see her future. With that being said, I don't think that Spain's entire success is contributing to Vilda. I think that these players who are immensely talented, who have won Ballon d'Ors, who play for teams like Real Madrid and Barcelona, deserve a lot of the credit. And I think that we are now reaching a conversation, which in my opinion is very unfortunate online, where people are villainizing these 15 players who stood up against Vilda and the federation instead of maybe trying to understand and have some empathy about what we might not know about the entire situation. Because the reality is there might be a lot of success on the pitch, but that doesn't mean that everything is, rainbows and butterflies off the pitch. There could be a lot of things happening behind the scenes. And if 15 players, which are some of the best players, felt the need to write that letter, there's a lot of things going on. So I'm very curious to see how this unfolds now. Like I said, we don't know what is true, what is not, what is happening, what the vibe is like in the camp for Spain. But what I will say is villainizing these women is completely wrong. And I feel for these players who sat at home watching Spain lift the World Cup trophy today because they took a stand for what they believe in. And now, they weren't able to be a part of that World Cup squad. And I hope that there's some change for this women's side because it's a tough conversation to navigate. Not every single person's going to understand that. But as a former player, it's very important that when you give your entire life, commitment, time, dedication to something, which is the sport of football in this context, it's a very non-toxic environment where you're treated with respect, where respect is given and earned, and it's a very comfortable environment that you feel safe in. And if that's not the case and you speak up against it, you should never be treated in a way where you feel like you have to quote unquote ask for forgiveness, because I definitely don't agree with that. So I'm very curious to see what happens with this Vilda situation. People are either team Vilda and this Spanish women's side was complaining too much, or are really on the side of like, let's support the women and see what happens and Vilda out.
Yeah, man, it's a very touchy subject. It's very hard to do commentary on. I think from a journalistic perspective, Caroline, I'm sure you can sympathize with this too, because everybody has an opinion. And again, people need to understand they don't know really entirely 100% of what's going on. But when 15 players, some of these massive international players, are coming up with very valid concerns in the workplace, like it doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete or if you work in, I don't know, a hospital or an office. Like, it's your workplace. It's the same idea. And no matter who you are, everybody deserves respect and everybody's voice deserves to be heard. And I think that these comments are being brought up. They need to be taken seriously. They need to be taken validly. And at the end of the day, also, yeah, it's absolutely okay, like what Caroline said, to say, okay, yes, Vilda did make some good decisions, obviously, in his lineups, and the manager is part of the team to take them, obviously, to the World Cup trophy. But also, these players went out there and they had something else to fight for too. They had themselves to fight for. They had their country to fight for. They had their beliefs to fight for. And I'm sure the players on the pitch today were fighting for these Spanish athletes who did not come to the tournament.
Yep.
So it's their win too. And I think that should not be underestimated as well. The power of what something to fight for can do. And I'm not saying England doesn't, but this is a very different situation. England has a very different situation with their manager because they have a very supportive together environment. Now, as for moving forward, I have no clue how this is going to go because, like you mentioned, okay, he looked like on paper, Vilda did his job by literally winning the World Cup. But
Yep.
there are other things at play here that need to 100% be addressed. It's tough. I think this situation cannot go on much longer without being addressed, quite honestly, because it doesn't matter that they won the World Cup. These ladies are not going to let anything slide. And moving forward, they're gonna demand more, and I think we're gonna see more protests, more comments, more public displays of information if something isn't changed. And I don't think we should be surprised if we see that. But again, who really knows what's going to happen? I mean, we've seen, on another note, the president of FIFA make some interesting comments. So again, that it begs the question, and I know I have the bias of being a woman, of course. So but like, how are we going to make change here if comments like that are being said?
But I wouldn't even consider it bias because I think as women, and I can speak to being a former athlete and also being in the industry that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
we come across a lot of situations, a lot of conversations that are completely unacceptable, right? Like we can speak through our experience, right? So when you have FIFA's president saying, pick your battles, choose your battles, and convince us men, or something along those lines. I'm just paraphrasing here. It's insulting because you wouldn't say that necessarily to a Ronaldo or to a Messi, right?
No.
And now you're dealing with a situation here with Spain where I just hope that these women aren't villainized at this
Yeah.
point because they achieved something so grand,
Mm-hmm.
so epic in their lifetime. And again, the amount of effort, work, time, commitment, dedication, it's lifelong for them. They've given their mind, body, and soul to this sport, and they've won the biggest trophy that's possible to win. And I just hope that it doesn't get clouded because of what we said on our last episode, Julia, which
Mm-hmm.
is this drama and this noise that's coming from the Vilda situation and the Federation situation. And there's been a lot of comments on our last YouTube video about, us saying, oh, if Spain win the World Cup, it's because the women are incredible. And if they lose, it's because of Vilda. That's not what we were alluding to. That's not what we were
No.
implying. You win as a team, you lose as a team. But what's important to note that is if Spain had a difficult time maybe winning this World Cup final, you can't deny that the drama and the noise wouldn't have played a factor into a performance, or because that's all anyone's talking about. It's
Mm-hmm.
constantly trending. It's unfortunate that we're heading into a World Cup, Spain versus England. England can go back to back with the Euro. Spain, I believe this is their third World Cup in their history, and they have the potential to win it for the first time ever. And we're talking about Vilda drama. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's
Absolutely.
what we were alluding to. And again, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. This is ours as women. This is mine as a woman who played the sport, who works in the sports industry. I have a very soft spot, especially like a protective place in my heart for the younger generation coming up, to be strong in what they believe in, and just because you feel like you may be silenced, not to sit down and take a seat and close your mouth. That's why I have a lot of respect for these women who wrote a letter and who are now not at the World Cup and missed out on a dream. Imagine them being back home in Spain, what
Mm-hmm.
they're going through right now. But I think it took a lot of strength and courage to stand up for what's right, what you felt in your gut. If you felt disrespected, if you felt like it was a controlling, toxic environment, for you to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, life is much larger, as immense as the World Cup is. Life is much bigger than that, and you can create change through these moments. And I hope to see that now with the Spanish women's side, because if they ever made a statement, it was today. And now they have the biggest opportunity to make change for their generation and the younger generations. And I really, really hope to see it. If Vilda and all of the drama that the media has kind of been portraying and talking about is true. You mentioned a great point. 15 women wrote a letter. This wasn't one person. And even if it was just one person, but 15 people took a stance. So I hope that it's addressed properly. And I don't think that there's a better time to do it. And we'll see what comes out about it, Julia. And I'm excited. Yeah, who knows? But it's important. It's very important for not just soccer players, footballers. It's important for women. So I hope men who may not resonate with this conversation, and that's totally fine. Like, again, you're entitled to your opinion. It's important to try and empathize with these women who wrote the letter and not villainize them.
Yep, I agree. Understand, try to put yourself in people's shoes, and educate yourself, and then of course you're entitled to your opinion. 100%. Like, we're not saying anything against anyone here. But even in some comments, people are like saying, I don't even know what this situation is, but XYZ, and it's like, well, you probably shouldn't be commenting things if you haven't properly educated yourself on, what's actually happening, of course. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
I am very hopeful that something will be addressed, because 15 players is nothing that should be avoided. And yeah, we just look to the future now. But again, what these players did out there on the pitch today is their own pure talent and motivation and star power. They're incredible.
Yeah, and to anyone who's saying that these Spanish women were complaining that practices are too hard and they're quote unquote whiny babies, man, you guys don't watch women's football. Because Alexia Putellas, who's a 2-time Ballon d'Or winner, you can't assume that she's afraid of training hard. She's trained her whole life very hard to achieve accolades like that. So that's not the situation. If they were complaining about training, maybe there was too much on their bodies, which is a valid concern. So people just need to, on all sides, just let's see how it plays out. You're entitled to your opinion, but I don't think we should be coming at each other for it either.
I agree. I just think it adds to a hostile environment, honestly.